So after finishing the first edition of the backpack of the Belabox setup, I wanted to see how long this would run on a battery. The original plan was pretty simple. Pack everything that I have, so my tent and all my camping gear, together with some electronics, onto a bike, cycle for 120 kilometers and go camping for a weekend, basically. And it started out great. I started out packing everything with some extra clothes because it was going to be a bit cold and a bit rainy. I didn't really know how long it would last on one battery, so I took 3 just to be sure. The idea of this trip was to stress test the system, how long it would run on a battery, basically. And then I set off. I started cycling on stream. Now, the weather completely turned on me in about 10 minutes of me riding a bike. At first, we got some headwinds, some pretty hard winds actually, some light rain, and after a while, things just got worse. It started storming, we got a lot of rain, heavy rain as well. About halfway through the ride, I started doubting that, this was actually camping weather or not. At that point, I got a message from the camping site that they were closed. So I had to turn back and cycle around 50 to 60 kilometers back home. On the way back, we got some hailstorms as well, some even worse rain. So I'm actually pretty happy that I didn't have to camp out in the weather. And the overnight trip turned into a 90-kilometer, 5-hour-long stress test. And surprisingly, it went actually way better than I expected. The biggest thing that I learned is that, 1, the setup can handle some rain, can handle pretty rough terrain and rides. So I'm not too fussed about it breaking down anytime soon. The second thing I learned, and this was probably the thing I was most worried about, was battery life. At around 5 hours, I still had 40% on my first battery left. That means that if we do a little bit of calculations, I should be able to run the backpack on about 7 or 8 hours on one battery, which I'd say is pretty good. So if I have 2 spares, which I didn't think the extra weight of 2 spare batteries wasn't too bad. So if I have 2 spares, that runs us 24 hours of streaming-ish. That being said, the ride also made something very obvious, and that is network or internet. The Belabox setup itself held up pretty well, right? I also streamed with a service called IRL Hosting, which, takes my computer out of the mix. That way I don't have to rely on my computer at home to keep stream live for when the network goes down or when my connection fails. Now, I was still relying on the phone tethering through USB, and I started running into 2 problems. One is connection. The antennas in a phone are pretty small, and once we got to rural areas or once we had to switch towers, the connection just dropped entirely, and it took a while to get back online. The second problem with the phone setup is that while we're tethering with USB, charging the phone is pretty annoying. So after 5 hours, it wasn't really the battery life of my streaming backpack that was the limiting factor. It was the phone setup, the phone battery that was dying. So at this point, it's not really how long can a streaming setup last on a battery. It's how do I keep it online without having my phone as a limiting factor, basically. So I think that is the next thing that I'll be focusing on while figuring this whole streaming on a bike thing out. I've already started looking into dedicated routers and setups. I'm trying to figure out what's the best approach to get to a stable network and keep it portable and I should be able to power it with a power bank. If you have any ideas on something that might fit into that puzzle, I'm all ears. Every bit of information is welcome. For now though, I'm pretty happy with where I am at and how this ride went. The camping trip might have failed, but I'll be able to do another one in the future. Stress test didn't though. I was very happy with the results of the stress test. I'll upload another VOD. I like keeping those VODs up as a little bit of a progress report. You know, just studying some of the weak points along the timeline. But I think that's about it. That's the update on the streaming backpack, or the bike backpacking setup. And I'll see you all in the next test. Bye.